Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Fan Behavior and F1 Podcast. I'm Hannah, and I'm here with Zoe.
Yay, Hannah did the intro.
She got nervous. We're having some technical difficulties due to the fact that, the recording didn't record correctly. Now we're doing it virtually. So we're having some mic issues. So Zoe's on just your standard AirPod mic. And it's going to be great. And it's going to be everything you've ever wanted and more. But
Hopefully, we'll be back to regular, not scheduled programming, but we'll be back to normal audio setup hopefully next week. This is classic end of year, just
oh yeah, it's Thanksgiving, the
things
time
are
between
falling apart.
Thanksgiving and New Year's. Yeah, things are falling
Nothing
apart.
is working. Yeah, apologies for the audio on my end, but hopefully we're entertaining enough that you won't even care and you'll just enjoy it and it'll be great no matter what.
It's fantastic.
It's fantastic. Okay, so this episode is us going over our 2023 predictions that we made back in January when we were just naive little babies.
Yep.
Didn't even know what was in store. And the
Barely knew what sports were at me. Like I barely spoke sports.
Yeah, I mean, you had about, what was it, maybe 8 months of being an F1 fan. You got your feet wet, and then you were ready to finally go fully in as an F1 podcaster.
Yeah.
And we're so grateful
Or,
that you did.
I faked it until I felt cool about it.
You did a great job. You did a great
Thank
job. But these predictions, for those who haven't listened to it, and not that you should listen to it now because we're going to reveal everything in this episode, but if you have listened to it, we were just very optimistic about some things,
Yeah, we were.
And boy, did we have no idea what was in store. And that's the beauty of it. That's the beauty of making predictions so early, is that you really don't know anything. And we made a point too of making them prior to testing. We wanted it to be totally unknown, completely just off the cuff predictions. And we'll do it again this year because it's fun.
Yeah. And even as far as we've come since the last predictions episode, like I feel like our predictions for 2024 will also be wildly different from how the season ends, because that's just how the sport goes.
You think they'll be different? See, I feel like I will not be. I think I will be playing it very safe with my predictions.
Oh, well, I mean, there's some things that are just like really hard to know, like, wildest race or like, random things
those
like that.
Things. Yes. Yeah. But the more like standard driver standings, constructor standings, I'm not going to make the same mistake twice.
Got it.
I didn't actually make a mistake, but I'm not going to be as optimistic as I maybe was this year. Yeah. Yeah. So we're going to get into all of those predictions. As we mentioned in that episode, for each one we get correct, each point we get right, we get a point. And then whichever one of us has the most points at the end gets merch from the other person. So we'll see which one of us comes out victorious, if at all.
It's very official business.
It is. It's so official. Shall we get into it?
Please.
Okay. So the very first category that we predicted was who would finish in last place in the driver's standings. Now, we both said Logan Sargent. I even said that he would not get points, which, damn, if it was not for some little piece of wood on the bottom side of two people's
silly
cars,
DQs,
I would have been right about that. Technically, I think we can give ourselves points for this because though Nick DeVries did end the season in last place in the standings, he did not get to race all.
Yeah, he didn't finish the season, so
right. And so I don't think we would have even counted if Daniel was last or Liam. Like I think we were only going to be counting the drivers that competed in all the races. I think that's fair. So
I think it's fair to us, and it's our game. So
it's our game, and we make the rules. And as long as we agree, then that's all that matters.
Amen.
So, okay. Next one was who is going to finish best of the rest. Now, again, we were basing this off of last year with the fact that all Red Bull drivers, Ferrari drivers, Mercedes drivers finished ahead of all the other drivers in the standings. Not the case this year. Not the case. In fact, George Russell came in eighth. Not a great year for George. So we both predicted Lando Norris, which isn't true, even if we were doing it the normal way, because Fernando Alonso came in fourth place.
Mm-hmm.
But Lando did finish ahead of Carlos Sainz, of George. So I
we were
guess, I mean,
close.
we were close. I'm not going to give us points for that,
That's fair.
but,
Yeah.
and this prediction seemed like it was going to be really off back at
Yeah,
the beginning of the season,
for sure. I think that was like maybe a hot take of ours.
that he was going to finish best of the rest.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, well, and it became even more of a hot take when McLaren was finishing like 15th and 16th.
Yeah.
Um, and he put up a good fight. He was only a few points back from Fernando. So congratulations to him
Exactly.
for coming so close. Okay. The next one was who is going to finish top three in the driver standings.
I'm
Now,
still shocked by my choice.
we all know that the top three were Max, Checo, and Lewis. Hannah predicted that the top three was going to be, she said, P3, Charles Leclerc. A safe bet
Yeah,
after him finishing P2 last year. I feel like that was safe. P2, you said Max Verstappen.
yeah.
Shocking. And in first place, Hannah predicted Lewis Hamilton was going to bounce back and get the W.
I did. I just, they were just so victorious for so long. It felt like I was still new here. I wasn't
You
aware
were.
of the dominance that is Red Bull right
Yes.
now. I mean, I don't
Yes.
think anyone could have predicted what Max did this year.
Yeah.
So,
I think you were predicting, well, and so I predicted Charlotte at P3, Lewis at P2, and I did predict Max would continue his dominance and win the championship. So I do get a point for the Max. The other ones we were wrong. But I feel like in your defense, you probably thought that the Mercedes off year in 2022 was just that.
one
Just
year.
an
Yeah.
off, yeah, just an off year that they were going to get it back. But I think what we've learned in Formula One is it takes a long time for
Yeah.
teams. It's not a 1 year, a big change happens.
Yeah.
And it takes much more time, especially when you have a team like Red Bull. I mean, I actually saw something today that like Red Bull hasn't made any changes or didn't make any changes to their car after like September or something like that. Like they didn't bring any more updates the rest of the season, which is
Sure.
crazy. So like
That's
all that
crazy.
time and money was just spent to fixing next year's car instead.
Wow.
So I think we can use that knowledge into
Yeah,
our predictions upcoming. So
absolutely.
yeah, we definitely thought it was going to be closer. Unfortunate that we were wrong. Okay. Constructors standings. Now let me just pull up as we're talking because I want to make sure that I share the correct order, how it
Yeah.
actually finished. So this is how the 2023 season finished. In P10, you have Haas. That. P9, Alfa Romeo. 8, Alpha Tauri. 7, Williams. 6, Alpine. 5, Aston Martin. 4, McLaren. 3, Ferrari. 2, Mercedes. And 1, Red Bull. I'm just looking at the points now. Red Bull had 860 points. Mercedes in P2, 409.
That's insane.
More than double. More than double. Crazy.
Jeez, that's crazy.
Yeah. Insanity. Okay, so that's how the season ended. All right. This is how Hannah predicted. So in P10, you said Williams. I also said Williams in P10. I think we were basing that again off of last year. They finished
Right.
P10. We couldn't predict what was to
No.
come with James.
No, and honestly, I'm happy to be wrong on that one.
Me as well. Me as well. I said P9 would be Haas. So I was not predicting a strong Haas performance. You said Aston Martin in P9, which, I feel like they were not that great last year. And you underestimated the power of not only Lawrence Stroll, but Fernando Alonso.
Yeah, I don't really like think about Lawrence Stroll that much, but I definitely underestimated the power of Fernando.
But you correctly estimated the power of Lance Stroll, I think, is what we're saying.
Yeah, I think when you go from Sebastian Vettel
Mhm.
to Fernando,
Yeah, you think
and
it's
you assume that
comparable.
if you're like, well, if Sebastian can't with what he was given, I don't know why Fernando would be able to. I was wrong, and that's fine.
Totally fine. I mean, as we're going to find out, we were wrong about many of these things.
Yeah,
Um, we both had in eighth Alpha Romeo wrong, but only by one place, so that's not so
yeah,
bad. In seven, we had Alpha Tauri, very close to being correct there, but
sure.
again, a very educated guess. So in sixth, I said Aston Martin. I was close, or actually, they did finish in sixth, didn't they?
I don't. I'm trying
They
to go
no,
back.
they finished in fifth. Alpine
Okay,
finished ahead of them. I was wrong there. And then in sixth, you had Haas. So you were really putting all your chips in the
I just
Gunther
love
Center
him.
basket. I know,
Yeah,
I know. And
I
they've
just am
done
rooting for them.
well.
Yeah, I
They've
know.
done well before. So
Mhm.
here's to next year. We both had Alpine and P5. Again, educated guess. And then here's where we were correct. We both correctly predicted McLaren in fourth, Ferrari in third, Mercedes in second, and Red Bull in first. So we each get 4 points
That's very exciting.
for that. So exciting. So if you're listening at home and you're wondering where the points stand currently, I have 6 points and Hannah has 5, but we're not over yet. Okay, now we're getting into the teammate predictions.
Mm.
Who's going to win the battle between each of the teammates in terms of points? This is not like qualifying, who's going to win qualifying head to head, race head to head. It is purely just based off of the points tally. Okay, Max versus Checo. I bet everyone can guess what we predicted. Chenko. No. That's never going to die, by the
No,
way.
it's not. Mm-mm.
It's going to stick around forever. No, we
Yeah,
both said Max, and we would be truly, we would not be allowed to have an F1 podcast, honestly, if you had said, or we had said Checo, or really anybody else other than Max.
for sure. Because like, what
Like,
world were we living in? I mean, some
like
delusion's fine, but
some delusion's fine, but like that is true lunacy.
yeah.
Um, so congratulations to us. We can still have our F1 podcast. We're okay.
Phew. Thank God.
Thank God. Okay. Charles versus Carlos. Do you remember what we predicted there? Or do you want to take a guess?
I think. Did we say the same thing?
We did say the same thing.
Did we say Charles?
We did. We
Nice.
did. Which was kind of like coming down to the wire. Carlos was ahead of Charles for much of the season. And then
Yeah,
really, I think it was the last race because Carlos didn't, or he, I guess, DNF'd and Charles got second place. Charles bumped up, but he did finish ahead. So congratulations to Charles Leclerc and
to
may
us.
he and yeah, and to us. Lewis versus George.
I think I said George and you said Lewis.
We both said Lewis,
Okay, well that's good.
which is good. Lewis did not finish ahead of George last year, but I think we both felt like, and we were correct in this, that it was just sort of like a learning, like Lewis was completely thrown off his rocker last year. Like
Totally.
it was just a brand new environment.
Yeah.
Like he never dealt with
Very
this
out of sorts.
before. Very out of
Mhm.
sorts. His equilibrium was just completely shot.
Tanked. Yeah.
Whereas George was coming from the Williams dysfunction.
Right.
Um,
Well,
with
he went from point to podium, like real
exactly.
quick.
And
And
he had to deal with when the Williams, do you remember when they didn't have all the parts at testing? Do you remember when they had to like last minute bring parts to
I
testing?
forgot
Like
about that.
he's been through some trying times. So
Yeah.
I think it makes sense that George could handle that shakeup a little bit better. But Lewis prevailed, so congrats to us. Okay, Pierre and Esteban.
I feel like I said Esteban and you said Pierre.
I said Esteban, you said Pierre, so you get the points. The point.
Woohoo!
I did say that it would come down to who DNF'd less. which I don't know if that's entirely true, but it did feel like Esteban had quite a number of DNFs this year. And it was like 5 points, like a 5 point difference. And I think they're probably going to be in the future, like very, like it's going to be a toss up every year. Like, who do you pick? Because either one could come out on top. Okay. Lando and Oscar.
Do we both say Lando?
Both said Lando. And we were right. Congratulations to us. Fernando and Lance.
Wow. If either one of us said Lance, that would have been silly.
That would have
been like saying Chanko.
Would have been like, yeah. No, Fernando completely walked before with Lance. So
yeah,
we were right there.
Sorry, Emma.
Yeah. Valtteri and Joe.
I feel like we've said Valtteri.
We both said Valtteri. So that's another win for us. And then Yuki and Nick.
Did we say the same thing?
We did not say the same thing.
Oh, did I say Nick and you said Yuki?
Yes.
Bummer.
And I even wrote this down in my notes because I said in that episode, are we sort of overestimating Nick DeVries? There was a whole part where I was like, he just came in, did one race. Like, are we going into this being like, yeah, that we certainly did overestimate Nick DeVries. And you know what? God bless him. Did you see how AlphaTauri did like a season recap post, like a scroll gallery thing on Instagram, and they like included photos of Nick, which like I get that they did that because like he was their driver, but it still felt weird.
Yeah, it's a little like the wound hasn't healed.
Exactly. It just felt sort of strange. Okay, Kevin versus Nico.
I feel like I said Kevin and you maybe said Nico.
We both said Kevin and we were both incorrect, unfortunately.
Sad.
Kevin just had a rough year, only 3 points. He was almost in last place.
Yikes.
Yikes. Yeah, it wasn't so good. So hopefully he gets a hold of it next year.
Yeah.
And then Alex versus Logan.
Alex.
Yeah, Alex. We're not that crazy to say Logan. That would be another insanity thing. Okay.
Yeah, I mean the good news is we can definitely keep our podcast because
exactly. So as the points stand right now, I have 15 and Hannah has 14 points. I think that's correct. Okay. The first DNF of the season. We were predicting who was going to have the first DNF of the season. And we just predicted teams. We both each predicted a team. I said Haas was going to have the first one, and you said Aston Martin. We were both incorrect. It was Oscar Piastri with McLaren. Bahrain 2023. So, I mean, and in the episode, you were mad that I predicted Haas.
Probably.
You were like, how could you? And I was like, I didn't want this to happen. I don't want this to happen. I'm just predicting it to happen.
Yeah.
Okay, then we both predicted who we thought would get an unexpected pole position this season. Now, I don't really feel like anyone got one. There was, Max and Checo, Charles and Carlos, and then Lewis got pole. And I feel like you can maybe say the Lewis pole was sort of unexpected, but not really. Like, I don't think that was that crazy. I said that Fernando was going to get pole. And honestly, I feel like that should have happened this year.
Agreed.
Given how good that car was early in the season, I'm shocked it didn't happen.
Yeah, me too.
Like at least one random race, and then you predicted Kevin Magnussen was going to repeat his pole from Brazil and was going to do another pole. Unfortunately, it didn't happen. So no points for us there, but I loved our thinking. I'm like now thinking like, what am I going to predict next year?
I know, me too. I'm like sitting here like, what will I do?
Okay, now this one's a little controversial, but I think we can figure out. I think I know how we're gonna fall on this one. So the next is unexpected win.
Okay.
Now you initially said Carlos.
Okay.
And I said, like, I don't think that would be unexpected because he had won last year, and like I didn't feel like a Ferrari winning would be that crazy. So then you changed your answer to Nico Hulkenberg.
Because, when you're just a little off, why not just totally turn the other direction? Let's go so delusional.
It was
Well,
funny. Like you had Haas pole, Haas unexpected win. Like you were really
I just
on the
want them to
Haas
do
train. I
well. I
know. It
love
was crazy.
them.
It was so funny. I said Lando, which I feel like also should have happened this year, but
Okay, agreed.
because Carlos was the only non-Red Bull driver to win a race this year, I feel like it is fair to give you that point because it was unexpected.
Wow,
Um,
thank you. I will take that.
so I'm being generous here and giving you the point, but I think
You're too
I think we can
kind.
all agree that, and thank God for it, honestly, because
Yeah.
at least we had one race, you know?
Yeah, I saw a graphic. I don't even remember where, maybe like F1 Troll or something. And it was just like all the races, it was just Red Bull. And then it just said Ferrari. Like, it's just when you look at it visually to see how it's crazy.
I know, crazy. Um, okay, the
Crazy.
next category was craziest race of the season. Now, again, this is a subjective category. We were going to have to come to some sort of consensus as to what is the craziest race. I said it was Monza. It was going to be Monza. Hannah predicted Abu Dhabi because she thought we were going to have a Abu Dhabi 2021 redo.
Wow,
Unfortunately,
she sounds like she was having so much fun, hoping for such a really exciting, ever-changing season. That's not what she got.
it is
She
funny.
got
Like
Red Bull
it was like,
only
well,
and like the lamest Abu Dhabi race of all time.
yeah. Well, that you didn't even watch.
But I was able to get caught up very
No, I
quickly.
know. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Like it was so didn't even matter. It
Yeah.
was yeah. I know it was funny. I was like, wow, you know, we just were not burned yet. Like we were kind of
Right.
burned, but like now we've been singed.
Yeah, for sure.
And like we're gonna be very careful, I think next year. Anyway, I
Yeah.
think the craziest race was Singapore because you had Carlos winning, you had George DNFing on the final lap, craziness for the podium. It was that I feel like was the craziest. It certainly was not Abu Dhabi or Monza.
Certainly not. No.
So I think we can safely say. Um, okay, then we predicted who would win Thirsty Thursday.
Fun.
And we both, I think I ended up saying Lewis was going to win. You were kind of like, didn't really give an answer, but you were between Lewis and Pierre.
Okay.
Unfortunately, neither of us were right because Charles won.
I'll
So
be
we
honest,
underestimated.
I'm still pretty shocked.
Yeah, I
I
know. I
don't
mean,
disagree with it. I just think it's surprising. And we talked, yeah, the first time we recorded this, that Pierre's thirsty meter has declined since he's become part of a relationship, which I fully support and absolutely understand. But the
yeah, but it's
thirsty
like
photo
Charles
dumps
Leclerc's
have,
in a relationship, you know,
well,
he still
they
brings
don't
it.
have the same
They
energy.
don't, and they don't have the same. They don't
No.
have the same thirst thing.
No, I mean, Pierre
Yeah.
was doing the most and then he
Hmm.
tamed it as he should.
Hmm.
Charles just has a consistent amount of thirst regardless of his status.
Yeah. Do you remember? I was thinking about this the other day. Do you remember when he commented the dog emoji?
Yes.
Like that was unhinged. Like
Yeah.
I cannot believe he did that. Honestly, I was like, that is crazy.
What was the context again?
It was so.
Sorry.
It was. It's okay. It was. Okay, I think I'm remembering this right. Actually, I should pull up because it was in his photo dump. So basically, the gist of it was Monza 2022,
Yeah.
and a lot of drivers were um they had qualifying, and then a bunch of them were going to take engine penalties. So like a number of drivers were going to be starting from the back of the grid, and so it was like this whole joke when the after qualifying drivers were posting like, not sure what position I'm going to be in tomorrow, like something to that
Yeah, yeah,
effect.
yeah. That's what I mean. I knew it had something to do with like with position, but
And then he had screenshotted a tweet that someone posted of like, I can't, let me find it. Let me find it because
it's
otherwise this
really
is
so
gonna,
of it. It really did like it broke our little corner of the internet.
I mean, it turned it
Rattled
into
us.
yeah, sent us into a complete spiral.
I mean, between that
Um,
and the red room, like last year was crazy.
I mean, there was many moments I feel like of what he posted that was just sort of
Single.
insanity. Okay, let's see here. Okay, Monza dump. Okay, here we go. Here we go. Here we go. Okay. Okay. So he tweeted, can someone tell me in which position I will start tomorrow's race? And then someone responded to that tweet and said, missionary. And he screenshotted it and he posted it to in his Monza dump. And then I think someone had like commented and like said something to him. I can't remember, but then he commented the dog emoji.
So good.
If you were there, you know, and
yeah, if you know, you know. And if you don't, well, I'm really
it's
sorry that you're
lore.
late, but
It's
it was
F1 lore.
crazy.
It was crazy. Anyway, Pierre did not win Thirsty Thursday this
No,
year.
he didn't. And that's fine.
And that's fine. He has tamed himself, and you know, I think
I thought Lando was a contender for a bit, but his thirst came really late in the season. So
it did come too late. It did
up.
come too late. I know. Yeah. I mean, I'm trying to think of who we think could bring it next year, but like it's going to be the same contenders, I think. I don't know.
Yeah.
Like, where's Carlos? I feel like Carlos kind of also is, he comes in hot, but then he also like drops the ball sometimes.
Yeah. Well, and if he doesn't repost, like, what's she to do?
I know.
So.
Anyway, okay. Then we predicted how many races before the first teammate on teammate dust up. Now, that was again room for interpretation. What is a dust up? What does that mean entirely? But I felt like we could be able to figure out what qualifies. I said Saudi Arabia. What I interpreted that to mean was like on track, sort of like bickering. Why did I have to give up that position? That wasn't fair. You know, something involving the teammate dynamic.
Sure.
I said Saudi. You said testing, which was
insane.
Quite.
I mean, that's such a stupid answer, but I think I was just hopeful for some like pre-season drama I think I was assuming that like Esteban and Pierre were tense. And then I wasn't sure what the Fernando Lance thing was going to look like.
Yeah. But what did you think was going to happen?
Suck my balls, mate. I don't know. I just don't. Okay. You know, it was just I was a baby.
I know you were a baby.
Testing.
You were just
a baby. I didn't know what we do there.
I know.
And I think I probably got nervous and thought it was a funny answer.
It is so funny. It's hilarious. It's amazing.
It's absurd. Testing.
When like the whole point of testing is like, let's come together to like make sure that this car is like the best it can be.
Yeah.
Well, shocker, we were both wrong. So
yeah, well, I mean, of course I was wrong.
Okay. I think you should keep it up. I think you should just keep saying testing, and then at one of these days,
we'll see.
Something's gonna happen. There'll be like a fight that breaks out.
Because I'll be pissed if I miss the point because I decided to have a real answer, and all of a sudden testing is crazy.
Exactly. Then we said, okay, then we predicted best sprint. I said Brazil. You said Spa. I think the best sprint, again, both were good sprints. I think Spa was probably better than Brazil, though Spa was like the condensed sprint because it was raining, whatever. But I feel like it was either Austria or Qatar. Now, listeners can correct if they feel like that is not the right answer. But I personally don't feel like either of us got it correct.
I agree.
Do you feel okay with that? Okay.
I feel great with that, but I did want to circle back to the dust up. Did you say who we think it actually was?
Well, I was saying it's not so much a dust up, but the first teammate on teammate crime happened in Australia.
That's right. Yes. And I do think so. I was close.
Well, I was closer. I said Saudi Arabia, which was the race before Australia.
Right.
But we were both not far.
Do you know what just happened in my brain?
Tell me.
In Drive to Survive, we started with Australia in season 1, but that wasn't the first race on the calendar. But in my mind, it was.
I don't know why they, I mean, I do know why, because of money, but I feel like they should, it's sad they don't start the season out in Australia, because I feel like that's a good place to start and the racing is good there.
Agreed.
But cash is king, as we know.
Yeah.
Okay, worst sprint. We both said Baku for the right reasons. Street track, like not the best, like not a lot of overtaking. I think it was fine. I think we both agree that the worst sprint was probably Austin, just because there wasn't a lot that happened in the sprint. It was just pretty meh. It was just kind of shocking.
Agreed.
I think we both thought it was going to be really good. Okay. Then we made our craziest, most wild F1 prediction. And this was going to be for 10 points. If one of us got this right, it was going to be worth 10 points. Now, your prediction was
I can't even
Alex
wait to hear it.
Alex Albon is going to get a podium at Spa. So the whole thing was like we had to like have a drivers involved and like a location and like something that happens. It's
Mhm.
like noun, adjective, verb, not
Like a Mad
action.
Lib.
Like a Mad Lib. Exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly. Unfortunately didn't happen, but would have loved for that to have happened for Alex. And
same.
then I said Esteban will take out Pierre at the start of Silverstone.
Okay.
Also didn't happen. But definitely could have. Both of these things, like in a perfect world, would have happened.
Yeah, in the season of F1 that I wrote, it did happen.
It did happen.
And Haas was P2 in the championship. So
Exactly. So if you've been following along, the point of this whole thing, or the reality is that Hannah and I finished tied on points. Neither one of us has to buy the other person merch, and I think that that's okay. And I
yeah.
think it was almost like a trial run. Let's do
Yeah.
predictions 1 year, and I think next year maybe we can come up with some more categories. We said we needed to come up with like a tie break. Oh, what did we say? Oh, we'd have to guess the number of points in
Yes.
between P1,
P1 and
P2,
P2 in the
and who's ever closest.
yes.
Yeah, I think that's a good thing, just as like a something to have. But I think we could
Hmm.
also probably come up with some more categories
Yeah.
that aren't going to be as like
Subjective.
abstract.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Um, so maybe we could do like something about track limits,
Ooh,
like who's.
yes.
I don't know how we would necessarily keep track of that, but
Yeah.
um, or
It's
like
something to think about.
Q. Yeah, we can figure this out. Okay, so that was our predictions from the 2023 season. But
Wow.
funny to go
My, how
back
far
on
we've come.
how far we've come. Now we're going to go through and just do some like superlatives of the season, favorite race, drivers of the season, et cetera, et cetera. Now we don't have to pick just one. We're going to throw out a couple, just kind of have a bit of a, banter
Good chat.
discussion on
Yeah,
all
and
of
I've
them. So
literally never been able to pick just one. So
I know, I know. Um, that's
thank you.
honestly why I was like, you know what, let's just open open to all. Favorite race of the season. Would you like to share your favorite races?
Sure. Well, Coda is obviously on the list because we were there
Yeah,
IRL and
yeah.
love it forever. But I loved Vegas. I really did. I pleasantly surprised, and I think just how happy, like how excited the drivers all seemed after Vegas, after all of the, you know, nonsense, and just like I feel like a lot of people were uneasy about what Vegas was going to look like, and for
Yeah,
it to have ended and been a fun race and like a race that they all seem to enjoy was great.
it was great. Yeah, Vegas was definitely one of mine. I said Australia, not because I thought
Hmm.
the racing was particularly great, but it was like a very crazy, chaotic race. Like
Yeah.
two red flags, restarts, the end,
Literal dust ups.
literally, I mean, just like carnage everywhere. It was just
Yeah.
like, what is going on? Um, that was also the first, I feel like, I don't know, it just felt like it was like that's when like stuff got real. I know that sounds
Hmm.
silly because like stuff was real in the first two races, but it just felt like okay, like F1, like we're in it. I don't know.
Yeah, we're back, you
Singapore,
know.
Singapore because Carlos won. I felt like it was one of those races where it was like, oh my God, what's gonna happen? And I feel like
Hmm.
that's so rare.
Yeah,
That was a great one. Mexico, more of a biased choice, but that was a great Daniel Ricciardo performance. It was just
sure.
like I felt joyful watching the
Yeah.
whole weekend. Was it a great race? No, like not so much. Like it's not the best racing track, but we did have a red flag restart.
We did.
Um, there were some incidents, the Checo incident. I mean, that was crazy. Yuki and
That sucked.
Oscar. There
Yeah,
was lots of moments, so I felt like it was pretty entertaining.
for sure.
And yeah, I feel like that was kind of the ones that stuck out. I was bummed that like Silverstone wasn't a better race.
Yeah.
Because I feel like that always delivers. Monaco, I felt like actually was pretty good, but also Monaco is kind of Monaco.
Yeah.
Okay, driver of the season.
So, well, Max.
You got to give it
But
up to Max.
yeah, but then I also had Lando and Oscar because I was really excited to see the change in Lando, obviously the positive uptick, but then I really just didn't know what to expect from Oscar at all. I remember like coming into the season being so unsure of like who he was, what his personality was like, if he was going to be any good. And then he just came in and he's hilarious and dry and so chill and really good at driving. So
Yep. He is definitely like, and if we were like, if we had, this is what we should also do, Hannah. We should
okay.
like rate or like rank the drivers in terms of like our favorites. Like it's hard because there's probably not going to be any new people that come in, but like we should rank them at the beginning and then
Mm-hmm.
rank them at the end and like see the
Ooh.
difference. Because I think that if we were to have ranked the drivers, obviously, I mean, it's not fair. We didn't really know Oscar very well, but if we were to have ranked them early in the season, he would have been like
Above
lower,
Logan
probably.
Sargent.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I think he maybe would have been above a few other people for me,
Yeah,
but
well, yeah, he would have been in my top 15, but
but I think this now, if we did it now, he'd definitely be in both of our top tens for
for
sure.
sure.
Yeah. So he's definitely taken the biggest leap forward, I would say, of
Mm-hmm.
all the drivers. Yeah, I had Max. I mean, it's you cannot not say Max. He
Right.
was like pretty much perfect the entire season. I said Lewis because I felt like he like finishing P3 when George finished P8. Like I feel like that's a pretty like Lewis did well this season, had great performances. Actually,
Yeah.
Mexico was a great he did great in that race. And I don't know. I just feel like it's not like he's like not the happiest person at the moment, but
Right.
I still think, obviously a great driver. Fernando, I
Yes.
mean, 7 podiums, 8 podiums this season. I'm
Mm-hmm.
not exactly sure. Like that
And he
was
was
pretty,
equally as happy for all of them. Like
yes.
thrilled to be there.
And just completely, I mean, he just completely demolished Lance. I mean, I
Yeah.
mean, you can't even, there's nothing to say about it. Like he completely crushed him
Yeah.
and just was incredible. I said Alex Albon. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, 22-0 in qualifying against Logan. That's crazy. I mean, just pretty much every stat got whatever it was, 26 of the 27 points
Yeah.
that Williams scored this season. Like, just an
It's
unbelievable
impressive.
season from him. And I think like where he was, like the way that people viewed him like last year, even compared to now, like I think he's certainly
Oh yeah.
people would consider him like in the top 10 of best drivers on the grid. Whereas I think before he was like, should he even be in the sport?
Right.
So happy for his comeback. And then I also said Charles Leclerc, despite the
Sure.
DNFs, despite the whatever. I mean, to have as many poles as he's had with a car that he has,
Yeah.
it's sort of a blessing and a curse,
For
but
sure.
impressive. And then Yuki
Yeah.
beating 3 teammates, doing a great job. I mean, dealing with the chaos, meeting Jason Statham. What more could you want?
Yeah. Good thing I'm not crying this time.
Good thing you're crying. Thank God.
Jesus. But what you said about um Charles DNFs and stuff, we talked about this yesterday, maybe we did talk about it on the episode yesterday. Honestly, I have no idea what got recorded and what didn't, but I've never seen Max DNF. Did we
I
talk
know.
about
We
that
did.
on the episode
Yes.
we recorded last night?
Yes.
Cool.
Yes. Yeah.
We'll move on.
Because Hannah's first race was Imola 2022, and Max's last DNF was Australia 2022. The race before Imola. So maybe you are the problem
Or the solution.
or the solution.
I'm sorry, everyone.
Yeah. No, it's all good. It's not your fault. You don't have that kind of
I know.
power, I don't think. Okay. Content of the season. Content of the season. Please share.
I really loved the unserious race series that Red Bull did. Thought
I
that
mean, the I just saw a picture today of Daniel throwing Yuki into the water, and like that
fantastic.
was just content gold. And like that's when we knew like this is gonna work.
Yeah.
You know,
I just
them
think
driving
it's
those boats.
yeah, I just think it's a fun way to like it seems like a really good way to get content from Max
Mhm.
because he always be racing, you know, like that's all he
Mhm.
wants to do. And
Mhm.
I don't know, I feel like he enjoys those and I find them hilarious and they're just like the most random. Like when Yuki and Max were in those humongous trucks, that was really funny for me. I really enjoy and like the mud, they're like covered in dirt and Yuki's like half the height of the tire. It's just the whole thing's really good. And
It is
and then
great.
I said to um the McLaren, but I'm specifically thinking about the lyric challenge that they did
Yes, so
when
good.
Lando was singing Taylor Swift. When he was like, "I'm a Swiftie," and then he forgot the words. Honestly, too, in the interview, I can't remember if it was an interview or when it was, but he was like, "Yeah, now everyone brings me Taylor Swift bracelets to the well, which first of all, the fact that friendship bracelets have been rebranded to Taylor Swift bracelets is pretty great. But that was funny. And then I know this is more recent, but when Charles and Carlos hung out with Piff the Dragon for the like magic slash what's it called? Who cares? The magic stuff.
Yeah.
The sorcery. Yeah, that was really funny.
Yeah, Charlotte and Carlos, I feel like we like they're when they do like their C square challenge, like that's always just like they just
Yeah.
have it's so important for like the drivers to either like match the energy or like have sort of like yin yang style
Yeah,
energy that like works together. And I feel like Carlos and Charles kind of have that yin yang, like they just have different ways of doing things.
for sure.
Um, but it always works and it's always funny.
It's always funny. And I think like even they're like they might be reacting the same, but it has a different energy to it. You know
Yes,
what I mean? So
totally.
it feels,
Totally.
yeah, I don't know. They're so good.
Totally. I
What
completely
about
agree.
you?
So I said mine was more Instagram based
Hmm.
content. I said the Lewis and Charles collab post, which again, I think I've said this before, but like it is truly like only in F1 is
Yeah.
that does that even make sense? Like if you were to like tell your friend to be like, okay, so like these two drivers, like they both got disqualified, and then one of them who's like, you know, this 7-time world champion, millions of followers, like whatever, he decided to do a collaborative post with the other guy that got disqualified,
Yeah.
and they just captioned it mood. You'd be like, okay.
Huh?
But like
Yeah.
we all know that like that was a life-changing for
Yeah.
us
Yeah.
because it got us featured on the Mercedes Instagram feed.
True.
Thank you to them. Um, but it was just like it was just pure gold. Like I don't know how else
Yeah.
to describe it. It was just
Yeah.
iconic.
Well, and so few people understand the significance of the collaborative post and what that really means in that moment. Cause I feel like I was trying to explain it to like my parents and they were like, well, isn't that just like tagging someone? And I'm like, no,
No,
it's so much bigger than that.
no. And like Lewis doesn't follow and like that's the other thing. It's
Yeah.
like there was a discussion involved. There was a, you know, there was something that had to go down in terms of let's
Yeah.
create this post. And it was the perfect response to what had
Yeah.
happened. Like it was just iconic.
It
I
was
loved it so
awesome.
much.
Yeah.
And then again, not as iconic for like the masses, but iconic for me was
Hmm.
the Daniel and Lando posts that they did when they were on the plane going to their
Yes.
first race together,
Yeah.
Hungary. Just, you know,
Oh,
classic.
in Hungary. I was like, how do you know they were hungry? Excuse me.
I know. Going
But
too
you could just
hungry,
like hear them being laughing and being idiots. It's
being
like it's just so
silly.
nice.
It
Yeah.
was so nice. It was just like that was when things felt good. That was when I was like
Yeah.
feeling all sorts of feels. So
Yeah.
loved that so much. Okay, duo of the season.
I said these are so lame, but I said Carlos and Charles or McLaren boys.
Yeah, I mean, I think the McLaren duo was definitely one that caught people by surprise.
For sure. And in the best
And
way. Because I was nervous to see how their dynamic would be. Again, because we didn't really know what Oscar was like. And honestly,
yeah,
they balance each other out well, I think.
yeah, I agree. I said as like a little bit of like a, I don't know, it felt like it came up or it's like come on recently, Max and Charles. Like I feel like
Yeah.
they're kind of, I don't know, they just felt very chummy
Hmm.
recently. And maybe it's because Max feels more relaxed because he sewed up the championship so long ago that like he doesn't have to have like the intensity vibe anymore.
Yeah.
But he just feels more. willing to like pal around, shall we say.
Sure.
And then also Lewis and Charles. I
Yeah.
think, you know, I mean, as we saw in the dinner photo, like sitting right next to Charles Leclerc,
Yeah.
taking his photo to put in his Instagram dump, the
Hmm.
collaborative post, like
Content kings.
content king. And I think Lewis, and like, I think Lewis even said, he was like, if I was a kid watching F1 right now, like I'd be a Charles Leclerc fan. I think that, yeah, I don't know. I just think their vibes, and even like, I don't know, did you see that video of like Charles and Carlos talking about fashion in F1? And they were asked like, who's your style icon? And
Oh,
Lewis or Charles said, I think he said Lewis, and Carlos was like, he's your icon. And he was like, well, I mean, I just like he does brave things with his fashion, and I really respect that about the way
yeah.
he dresses. And it's like Charles tries to do brave things with his fashion, but doesn't always come to
No.
fruition. So anyway, those were like my unexpected duos, you know, like the
Yeah. Of
ones, because we could say Daniel Yuki, we could say
course.
um, Pierre and Esteban.
Toto and Christian.
Toto and Christian. I mean, we don't have the given Pierre Yuki like we had last year. I mean, that was
Right.
everyone's duo. And like we kind of still got some content from them when they cooked together. I mean, we didn't even mention that, but when they
True.
made a meal together with
Kika.
Kika there as a third wheel,
Yeah.
you know, God
And I
bless.
appreciate her understanding of how important that content was to get, you know?
Yes.
Yeah.
So true. You always have to be getting content. It's so
Yeah.
important. Okay, surprise of the season.
AlphaTauri.
Oh, you mean just
Nick
as a whole?
to Daniel to Liam to Daniel. Not
Who would have
expected
thought?
at all.
I mean, it is crazy.
It's crazy.
Like no other drive, there was no other sub driver situation. No one got sick. No one else got
Yeah.
injured. No one else had anything else that had gone on the whole season except for AlphaTauri.
Yeah. And I like Alex Albon's, like the butterfly effect of Alex Albon's appendix is like still echoing
Well,
through
you
the
know what's so
season.
funny is everyone always says Alex Albon's appendix, which is true, but it's also Sebastian Vettel's retirement.
Yeah.
Because if Seb hadn't retired, then Fernando wouldn't have moved to Aston Martin, and Pierre wouldn't have moved to Alpine, which wouldn't have left that seat open at AlphaTauri. So like it's all these things had to come into play for
You know, it
this all to
makes more
happen.
sense that it's Fernando's fault.
What do you mean?
Just that like it
Oh,
started
like
he's a chaos king.
yeah,
But yeah,
he is a chaos king,
total
unintentionally so.
effort. Yeah, of course.
Um, yeah, so one of mine was definitely Daniel's return into F1 and then his subsequent exit and then return again. I mean, you can't write that script. Like that is a
No, you can't
crazy
because no one
script.
would believe you. If you wrote that in a
Yeah.
movie, they'd be like, this is ridiculous. This would never happen.
Yeah. Like Daniel is out of F1, then he gets back into F1, then he's in F1 for a couple of races. Then there's the summer break, then he comes back, breaks his hand, then he's out again, then he's back again. It's just like, again, we
Hi, a
said this
day.
like main character energy. Like even if he doesn't want to be, he is always the main character in every story.
Gotta be.
Every one of my stories.
Yeah. And
I
all of Anita Driver's stories as well.
um I said McLaren's comeback
Yeah.
because where they were to where they ended was like pretty crazy. And you know, we've had our journey with McLaren, but
Sure. We're on
happy
board
that
now.
we're on board, happy that they're doing well. So
Yeah.
congratulations to them. I said Vegas being a good race
For
was a
sure.
surprise because I do think
Hmm.
that we were definitely ragging on it initially.
For sure.
And even like leading up to the rate, like the days before.
Yeah.
So I think that was a nice surprise. And actually, it's gotten a lot of people talking about like, what's the point of Miami now? Like, you have Coda, permanent racetrack, good racing, people like it. Now you have Vegas, street track, and it's good. Miami's a street track, but if you already have the good Vegas track, why do you need the Miami that's like in the
Well,
parking
yes.
lot?
And Vegas obviously came after, and but like really the question should have been, why are we adding the Vegas? I mean, because Vegas or Miami came first. Miami's now also on the calendar for however many years.
Yeah.
which, it's a bummer.
I guess the point is Miami needs to figure out how to make their race better because the racing is always very subpar. And it's like, okay, there's nothing interesting about it, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah. But I guess this is, and maybe this is a terrible thing to say as a fan of the sport, but like there's a lot of tracks that aren't great for racing and we've been going there for decades. So I guess I would be curious, like, is the Miami, like the conversation about Miami about the track or about the guest experience? Because
I think it's, well, from what I was reading, it was more about the track, more about the race. Like if we already have a great street track race, if now we've seen we have a great street track race in the States, why do we need like a different one? If it's not very good, I guess is the point. When and it is true, when there's other, I mean, again, it doesn't matter because it's all about money anyway, so no one cares. But when there's other races or like tracks that have been taken off the calendar or will be taken off the calendar, it's hard when it's like, well, then why are these other races? And like Monaco's not a great track, but it's historic, so like
of course,
could justify. Anyway, we'll see.
I get it. Yeah.
And then my final surprise was the Patrick Mahomes, Travis Kelce investing in Alpine. And just the synergy of all that's gone on for us this year with Travis Kelce, Taylor Swift, who's in Kansas City right now, by the way. Keep your, not that you're in Kansas City, but keep your ears and eyes peeled. Just all of that, just the convergence of interests. It's crazy.
Well, and speaking of Taylor Swift, my other surprise was Fernando. Well, maybe dating Taylor Swift. That was wild, but also nonsense. But the beginning of the season for Aston Martin, did not see that coming.
So true. So true. It's just been up and down. It's been crazy.
Crazy.
Okay, highlights of the season. So just like some of the best moments, things that we've loved. Anything that you can think of.
Carlando, P1 and P2. I feel like they spoke that into existence a while ago, even though they weren't teammates anymore. It was really sweet to see that happen.
Yes. You know what's funny?
No.
So Lando has been P1 and P2 with two of his teammates so far.
Oh.
Past or present, because Daniel was P1 and Lando was P2 in Monza. Carlos was P1 and Lando was P2 in Singapore. So now he just got to do it with Oscar.
Oh, yeah, because he's only had those two teammates.
Yeah, and now Oscar.
Yeah, so he has to be the P1 for Oscar's P2.
Yeah.
Wow, can't wait. I had also written down Chiefs and Alpine, but we talked about that. Fernando's TikTok fame and
incredible.
The accolades he's receiving for it. I mean,
completely
congratulations.
Agree. Yeah.
I don't know how much input Jimmy has in Fernando's TikTok. But I just feel like regardless, Jimmy's really setting the tone for social media at Aston Martin. So shout out to you. And then James getting Instagram.
Yes. Hi, Instagram. It's James.
I don't remember when I told everyone that I figured out that James. I didn't know that was Valtteri's James.
Yeah, she didn't know, but it's okay. Now she knows. And that's great. Yeah, I said Fernando's return to the podium. I felt like that was a long time coming because it was, and that was fun. I said Daniel Ricciardo at the Met Gala.
Yes.
Meeting Anne Hathaway. What a moment to meet
Mia Thermopolis.
Well, what if he just went, shut up?
That would have been fucking iconic. Oh.
She goes to him, she goes, I'm a huge fan. Or she says something to that effect. And so that's when he should have said, shut up.
Yeah. It would have been funny if while that happened, when she's talking to Daniel, someone turns around thinking they're talking to her and she goes, not you. I don't even know you.
I think we actually talked about this when this happened, but
I'm sure.
Did we think about, or have we thought of what his favorite Anne Hathaway movie is?
We did talk about it, I think. I would really hope it's Princess Diaries 1.
Yeah, I wonder if he's seen it. Like, that's the thing. Like, I could see a
he
world where
he's like someone who's seen it. Doesn't he have an older sister?
He does. That's true. That's true. When did it come out? When did it come out? Let me look this up.
I don't know, but he's definitely seen it.
2001.
Yeah, he saw it.
Okay, he's seen it.
Yeah, for sure.
You're so right about the sister component. That makes a huge difference.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
that's
he seems
when.
like someone who would like genuinely enjoy it too. And like
Mhm.
not I think he would admit to it. It's probably not something he turns on his own a lot, but I could see him like popping it on if he's on the plane and been like, "Oh
Or
yeah,
like
this
if
was
he's
funny that one time."
scrolling or
Yeah.
something. Yeah, yeah, yeah. If when we interview him, that's a question we'll have to ask. We have to ask
Great.
that
Yeah.
because I'm trying to like think of like maybe he's a Devil Wears Prada fan. I could see.
So this is actually would be really interesting. Any of the because we are both older sisters, obviously, it would be interesting to come up with a list of movies that my brother is well versed in and your brother is well versed in, strictly because they have older sisters and just
Do you know one of the movies that
because
my
the people
brother
want to know.
had to watch so many times because I'm his sister? It's so niche and random, but
Oh.
Ice Princess.
Oh yes, I did know that. It is very niche and random, but yeah. Michelle Trachtenberg killing it.
Like literally we watched that like every day for like one summer. It was truly insane. But I think I told you my brother and I, for the most part, we had different TV watching
Yeah.
places
Mm-hmm.
because we watched because I think there's like a when it's like a 4 year difference, like
Yeah.
that's a change in your viewing experience. Like
Experience.
he was watching iCarly, Victorious, that
Yeah.
type of shows, and like that was not quite, you know what I mean?
Right. Mm-hmm.
Just slightly off.
Yeah.
I'm looking through Anne Hathaway's filmography. I mean, I bet you he's a Dark Knight Rises guy because she was in
Sure.
maybe Interstellar. She was in
Yeah.
Interstellar.
I feel
Maybe
like he
he's
also
seen,
would have liked Ocean's 8.
mm, maybe. Do you think he's seen the intern?
I don't know, but I haven't. So
You haven't?
no, I don't think so.
Oh my God, it's a great movie. Nancy Meyers movie. You have to
Okay.
watch. And you
All
love
right.
Nancy Meyers because of The Parent Trap. Um, maybe he likes Bride Wars. This
Also a
is
good
a
one.
great question that we will definitely have to ask
Yeah, and
because
it's good because it's rapid fire, and honestly, the people want to know this
the people
information.
want to know.
And
It's like when Matt asked, "What's your favorite Taylor Swift song?"
yeah,
You know what I mean? It was like we've all been wanting to know this question or the
yeah,
the the answer, and we got it, and now we know our song.
yeah. So respectfully, if anyone's listening to this and gets to Daniel before us, don't do this because we will have receipts. We will print them out, and we will find you respectfully.
That is so true. That is
We got to
yeah.
stop giving our content ideas away on the
That's
internet.
yeah. Red flags. Can't steal it. Not the red flags.
I know.
It's the red flag.
Generic red flags.
Generic red flag. Okay, some other highlights. Not a highlight, but Otmar being fired. It was a moment and it was
It
sad.
was.
Um,
Yes.
Lewis getting pole position in Hungary, our first pole position, or our first Lewis pole position. And again, didn't matter, but it was fun.
It was
I
fun. Yeah.
enjoyed it. I enjoyed
Yeah.
that moment. And that's
I
the
did
thing with
too.
F1. You have to just enjoy the moment because
Yeah. Enjoy the butterflies.
as the great Daniel Ricciardo once told us, you're so right. And then finally is George Russell fully coming into his own as a meme lord.
Yeah. I will miss
And
the tea
I'll miss the tea, but I mean, just everything he's done over the course of the season,
on accident.
unintentionally. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Um, I mean, you just have to, and I think he's someone that's really grown, in my opinion,
Agreed.
because of what he delivers off the track and on the track. All of his
Yeah.
lines and "Oh sugar"
Hmm.
and "Is it raining?
Exactly.
Is it sweat?" I mean, like some people were just
I
born
forgot
for
about
this
that.
life
Yeah.
and like George is one of those people, and honestly, like Yuki's one of those people. It's like you can't make this shit up. These people are like created out of I don't know. I mean, it's why we keep saying George is like an AI person because it's like it doesn't
Right.
feel real,
Yeah.
but it is.
It is.
Thanks to George. Anything else you'd like to share?
I don't think so.
Okay, well, that is that on the F1 predictions recap of the 2023 season. We did have some people wanting us to do our end of year awards. You remember we did the
Oh,
mid-season
yeah.
awards? Now, TBD on if that's actually going to happen because that does take some time to like organize with the categories and the nominees and everything. And you're out of town, I'm out of town. So like I don't know that it's actually going to happen in full transparency, but if we can make it happen,
We will.
We'd love to make it happen. And honestly, maybe I can use my plane time when I'm flying back home. I can use that to make it happen and
Yeah,
lay it all
and
out.
maybe, not to brainstorm on the podcast, but we could do like a Google form or something.
Totally. We could.
And I can work on that during the day sometime.
Okay. We'll figure it out.
Okay.
Anyway, thank you all for putting up with our technical difficulties
Yes, thank
over the
you.
last couple of weeks. We apologize again for that, but this is the life of a podcaster who doesn't have people working for us and helping us
or a large budget
or really a budget at all. So, this is what we're working with. And anything else to share?
No, we love you all.
Love you
That's
all.
it.
So are we going to end the same way?
Yeah.
Okay.
On
On
Shantae.
Hey.